In April 1909, on the bitter, brilliant ice at the apex of the earth, a black man from Charles County, Maryland, stood beside Robert Peary and 4 Inuit hunters as the Stars and Stripes were nailed to the North Pole. His name was Matthew Alexander Henson. For 23 years, he had been Peary's right hand, his best dog driver, his sledge builder, the one companion the commander trusted in the final extremity. In 1912, Henson wrote down his own account of that conquest. This is his story, in his own voice, of the longest, coldest, and most dangerous journey ever made by men, and of the lowly member of his race who was chosen by fate to help complete it. When Peary returned, the first question asked was how it came that beside the 4 Eskimos, only Matt Henson, a Negro, was accorded the honor of the final dash. Peary's answer was plain. Henson had been with him since 1887 on every expedition and every farthest sledge trip, chosen for his adaptability, his fitness, and his loyalty. He was, Peary said, a better dog driver than any man living, save the best Eskimo hunters. Booker T. Washington, who wrote the book's introduction, saw in Henson proof that courage and ability are honored under a black skin as under a white. From the position of a servant, Henson rose to companion and assistant in one of the most difficult tasks ever undertaken by men. Before the ice, there was a boy on the Potomac, an orphan, a cabin boy, an able seaman who had sailed half the world before he ever met the man who would lead him north. Matthew Henson was born on the 8th of August, 1866, on the Potomac River, about 44 miles below Washington, on land where slavery was already over forever. His parents were both free-born before him, and in his mother's veins, he wrote, ran some white blood. The family moved to Washington, and there his mother died when he was 7 years old. His uncle took charge of him and sent him to the N Street School, which the boy attended for over 6 years. It was a fragile, ordinary beginning for a life that would end at the top of the world. Henson never made much of his hardships. He simply records that he was taken in hand, schooled, and then, restless and young, he went down to Baltimore to find a ship and the sea. Leaving school, Henson went to Baltimore and shipped as a cabin boy aboard a vessel bound for China. After that first voyage, he became an able-bodied seaman, and for 4 years he followed the sea, sailing to China, Japan, Manila, North Africa, Spain, France, and through the Black Sea to southern Russia. He was still a young man when, in Washington in 1888, he first attracted the attention of Robert Peary, then a civil engineer and lieutenant in the Navy. With what Henson called the instinct of his race, he recognized in Peary the qualities that made him willing to enter his service. He went as Peary's body servant to Nicaragua, served as his messenger at the League Island Navy Yard, and from Peary's second Arctic expedition in 1891 onward, he was a member of every single one. 18 years of the Arctic lay between that first voyage north and the pole. Years of frozen toes and falling comrades, of meteorites and record marches, of a man slowly learning to live like the people of the ice. It was in June 1891 that Henson started on his first trip to the Arctic as a member of the North Greenland expedition. Mrs. Peary came along, and among the party were Dr. Frederick Cook of Brooklyn, Langdon Gibson, and the young Norwegian Ivan Astrup, who would cross North Greenland at Peary's side. On the voyage north, Peary's leg was broken. The expedition's joy was marred by tragedy. John Verhoef, a stalwart young Kentuckian and a good friend of Henson's, lost his life the following summer by falling into a crevasse in a glacier, and his body was never recovered. On the first and the last of Peary's expeditions, Henson noted, success was marred by death. The impressions of that first visit to the land of ice and snow were the most lasting he ever formed. More than any other member, Henson became one with the people of the ice. For periods covering more than 12 months at a stretch, he was to all intents an Eskimo, with Eskimos for companions, speaking their language, dressing in their skins, living in their snow dens, eating their food, sharing their pleasures and their griefs. He came to love these people, and he knew every man, woman, and child in the tribe. On the 1893 voyage, he adopted an orphan boy named Kudluktu, whose mother had died. He washed and clothed the child, who learned English and slept beneath his bunk. The scientists said these people represented the earliest form of human life, living in what was called the Stone Age, and Henson reverted to that life by leaps and bounds and emerged from it the same way.
Of all his Arctic memories, Henson said the 1895 march was the most vivid. With Peary and Hugh Lee, he crossed the never-ending wastes of the North Greenland ice cap, marching from Independence Bay and the land beyond, back toward Anniversary Lodge. They had started on the 1st of April with 3 sledges and 37 dogs, meaning to fix the northeastern terminus of Greenland. After killing a few muskoxen, they turned back on the 1st of June with 1 sledge and 9 dogs. They reached Anniversary Lodge on the 25th of June with a single dog. The grim destroyer, Henson wrote, had been their constant companion, and it was months before he recovered. He left for home that September, resolved never again to leave his warmer lands, a resolution he broke the very next summer.
The next summers were spent recovering 3 great meteorites Peary and Lee had found in Greenland, masses the Inuit called the Woman, the Dog, and the enormous 70-ton tent. Henson's back still ached, he wrote, from the work of loading that monster aboard the Hope. It now reposes in the American Museum of Natural History. During this voyage, Peary announced his determination to discover the North Pole, and the years from 1898 to 1902 were spent in the Arctic. They had every experience but death, and more than once looked death squarely in the face. In January 1899, Peary froze his feet so badly that all but one of his toes fell off. In 1902, they reached a new American record of 84 degrees 17 minutes, halted by a mile-wide lane of open water Henson would come to know intimately, the Big Lead. After 1902, 3 years passed before Peary attacked again, but he was not resting. He was building the Roosevelt, a ship made for this fight. In July 1905, they sailed north in her, and that September, she reached Cape Sheridan, latitude 82.27, under her own steam, a record no other vessel could match. The next spring, they took to the Arctic Ocean with 26 men, 20 sledges, and 130 dogs. It was an open winter and an early spring, undesirable on that coast. The ice pack broke up too soon. Furious storms cost them precious days, but Peary's party reached 87 degrees 6 minutes north, breaking all records, and returned safely. No sooner home, Peary announced he would return one final time, and this time he meant to win. On the 6th of July, 1908, with the good wishes of President Roosevelt, the ship that bore his name set sail again. After a year and a half of waiting, the order had come at last, due north.
July 6th, 1908. We're off. For a year and a half, Henson had waited for this order, and now the last hawse line was cast adrift, and he felt the throb of his own ship's engines. They anchored in Oyster Bay to receive President Roosevelt, for whom the ship was named, and who had already sent her once toward the pole. As the tug carried the last visitors away, Henson waved his parting salute, but his thoughts were with his wife. He had said his goodbyes long before, and hoped that when she next heard of him, it would be with joy. The soft wooded hills and grazing sheep of Long Island Sound gave him a curious feeling, for he was waiting for the command to attack the savage, ice-bound fortress of the North.
Henson sized up his shipmates with a sailor's eye. Captain Bob Bartlett, about his own height and weight, with red cheeks and short curly hair, was as quick as a cat and afraid of no man aboard. Professor Ross Marvin of Cornell was quiet and earnest, growing bald, a teacher who took great interest in Henson and tried to school him in navigation. The tenderfeet, as Peary called them, were Dr. John Goodsell, dark and swarthy, Professor Donald McMillan, and George Borup, the kid, only 21, a record-breaking athlete always ready to laugh. Chief Engineer Wardwell was a ruddy giant with the most honest eyes Henson ever looked into, and Charlie Percy, the steward, was Peary's oldest hand next to Henson himself. He withheld judgment. He had seen too many enthusiastic starters who did not finish well. From Cape York northward, the ship gathered dogs, furs, and walrus, and the Inuit families greeted Henson as their own. At Ootah, it took on the last coal from the Eric and met the most wretched human being any of them had seen, Rudolph Franke, a white man left the year before by Dr. Cook, his legs swollen with scurvy, begging to be taken away. The commander had him cleaned, treated, and shipped home. The Sturchman Harry Whitney elected to stay and winter at Ootah among the natives. The 8th of August was Henson's 42nd birthday, which he told no one. 17 years before, on his first trip, Peary had hobbled about on crutches to give him the first birthday party of his life. Now Ootah was the last touch of the outside world before they steamed alone into the ice. From Ootah to Cape Sheridan, their last point north in the ship, consumed 21 days of the hardest kind of work imaginable, fighting for every foot against almost impassable ice. For any other vessel, it would have been impossible, but the Roosevelt was built for this, made comfort aboard all but impossible. The Eskimo women sewed the fur clothing for the coming winter, while Henson worked on the sledges. 2 caches of provisions were laid ashore, and the boats provisioned, in case the ship were lost. They took no chances. Forging ahead day by day through Kane Basin and Robeson Channel, the Roosevelt gained the shelter of Cape Sheridan early in the afternoon of the 5th of September, 1908. Now came the dark months of preparation, building the sledges that would carry them to the pole, hunting fresh meat under the stars, and waiting for the sun to return so the great march could begin. At Cape Sheridan, every spirit soared, and Henson often heard the men humming songs as they unloaded the ship. The Roosevelt was made fast to the icefoot, her head pointed due north, and temporary houses were built ashore from boxes of provisions, roofed with sails and overturned whaleboats, ample enough to shelter the whole expedition should the ship be lost. Henson kept busy carpentering, interpreting, barbering, tailoring, and chasing Eskimos out of his quarters. There was a rule that every man bathe at least once a week, and bathing proved wonderfully contagious. In his own cabin, Henson kept Dickens' Bleak House, Kipling's Barrack Room Ballads, the poems of Thomas Hood, and a Bible given him by a dear old lady in Brooklyn, and through the long, dark midnights, he spent many a pleasant hour with his books. Henson was busy making sledges of a wholly different pattern from those used before, designed by Peary and built by Henson's own hands. The runners were longer and curved upward at each end, so that they resembled the profile of a canoe and would rise over the inequalities of the ice. Lashed together with sealskin thongs, about 12 feet long, 2 feet wide, and 7 inches high, they let the load be spread along their entire length, rather than tiled up, for a more even distribution of weight. The Eskimos, used to their own open-work sledges, doubted that one man and a team could manage the new type, but a fair trial showed the new style had the old beaten by a good margin. On these sledges, built in the Arctic dark, the journey to the pole would be completed. Fresh meat was imperative, and once his necessary work at the ship was done, Henson took a couple of Eskimo boys and went out after musk oxen and reindeer.
The sun was sinking lower and lower, and the hunting parties returned with poor luck. Sometimes nothing, sometimes only a few hares and fish. From his diary, he set down the bleak truth of it. 8 days out, and not a shot, not a sight of game, nothing. The long months of darkness, of quiet and cold, that even years of experience could never make him welcome. Not a sound but the report of a glacier breaking off to birth a new iceberg. The black sky, the stars, hour after hour with no sunlight, and always the cold getting colder. The same old story, he wrote, a man's work and a dog's life, and he was tired, sore, and discouraged.
Through February, the parties freighted supplies forward to Cape Columbia, where Peary named the little village of snow houses Crane City, the northernmost city on Earth. From its highest pinnacle, Henson gazed out over the ice-covered ocean, a sinister chaos of broken ice through which they would have to work their way. He tried to capture its terrible beauty, a gorgeous bleakness, the snows showing every color of the artist's palette, the sky bluer than the Mediterranean. Peary's plan was a relay. Pioneer parties would break the trail and lay caches, then turn back one by one, husbanding the dogs and food so that a final, fresh party could make the last dash. From Cape Columbia, the expedition would now leave the land and sledge over 413 miles of drifting ocean ice north to the pole.
On the 1st of March, 1909, the long column set out across the frozen ocean. Ahead lay broken sledges, treacherous open leads, and the dreaded Big Lead, where the trail to the pole had been turned back before. On the afternoon of the 26th of February, the dogs raised an outcry, and 3 sledges came racing down to Crane City, with Peary's ever-victorious team in the lead. There was never anything military about Peary's expeditions, Henson wrote. No banners, no trumpets. The only military thing was his peremptory order, forward, march. What flags they carried were folded on Peary's sledge, to be broken out only at the pole. Bartlett and Borup pushed off first to make and scout the trail. The main party left on the morning of the 1st of March, a furious storm of blinding snow blowing, which Peary took as a good omen, for a heavy storm had been the stirrup cup of all his travels. By 6:30, Henson and his 3 boys were ordered to take the lead, and they were off across the polar sea. Following Bartlett's trail, every man at the upstander of his sledge, they pushed off over ice so rough they had to pickaxe a pathway. Within a mile, Henson's sledge split, the first of many. He learned to rebuild a whole sledge from 2 broken ones, working with ungloved hands until his fingers froze, then thawing them against his heart before working on. The cold was beyond imagining. One night he called a night of Plutonian purgatory, waking again and again to beat his arms and feet, hearing his boys do the same. The hard pemmican cut their mouths so badly, they tried boiling it in tea, but the stew was so unwholesome the experiment was never repeated. Through belts of rubble ice and heavy old floes where they sank knee-deep, they hewed and fought their way slowly northward, mending sledges as they went. At the 84th parallel, they came to the Big Lead, a river of open black water believed to mark the edge of the continental shelf, the same lead that had foiled them in 1906. There was nothing to do but wait for it to freeze or close, and they waited nearly 7 days, watching 7 precious days of fine weather slip away. Bartlett called it hell on earth. Peary held his patience. Macmillan cracked jokes and ran athletic contests to keep the Eskimos' minds off going back. 2 of the older men, Panicpaw and Puadluna, grew so fractious that Peary sent them home with a written order. They remembered what the Big Lead had meant in 1906. and Henson had the devil's own time keeping his own boy steadfast. At last, on the 11th of March, the lead shut, and the full party started across through the heaviest of going. Now the relay system did its work, and one by one the supporting parties turned south. Dr. Goodsell was sent back first, on the 14th of March, in charge of 2 boys. Macmillan, whose frozen heel kept splitting open and would not heal, was ordered back, though he begged to go on. On the 20th, Henson's good friend George Borup, who had done his work like an old campaigner, took the 3rd supporting party back to the land, with 3 Eskimos and 17 dogs. Each returning party knit the broken strands of the upward trail together, so those ahead could follow in safety on the way home. Through it all, Henson pioneered the route, carrying full-loaded sledges of some 550 pounds, while the parties behind carried half. Breaking trail through pressure ridges 60 feet high, his sledges wrecked and lashed back together with seal hide.
From the big lead north, the pioneer and main parties leapfrogged. While one slept, the other traveled the trail, and progress was made around the clock under a sun that never set. Marvin took the last of his observations at 8638 north before turning back, the farthest he would go. 88 north, the farthest north ever reached by any man. "It is just like every day," Bartlett said quietly. Then this brave man who had borne the brunt of all the hardships turned back from that record to ensure the safe return of the man who would go to a still farther north, the pole itself. His was the least emotional of all their partings. A cheery goodbye, good luck, and he was off. 6 men remained: Peary, Henson, and the 4 Eskimos. 130 miles of drifting ice lay between them and the top of the world, and the goal of 4 centuries was within their grasp. Bartlett and his boys started south, and the main column, cut to its final strength, started north. They were 6: Peary, the commander, the Eskimos, Ootah, Igingwa, Siglu, and Oquea, and Henson. Day and night were now the same, the sun a ball of livid fire rolling forever above the horizon. As they looked at each other, Henson wrote, he and Peary knew without speaking that the time had come to demonstrate that they were the men ordained to unlock the door of the Arctic mystery. They covered Bartlett's farthest in good going and pushed on. Such was Peary's faith in Henson that he took the reckoning as Henson made it, not resorting to solar observations until they were within a hand's grasp of the pole. The 4 Eskimos were blindly confident in their leader, working only that he might succeed. On the march of the 3rd of April, Henson endured an instant of hideous horror. Crossing a lane of moving ice, the block he was using as a support slipped from beneath his feet. The sledge tore out of his grasp, and he was floundering in the freezing water of the lead. He tore the hood from his head and struggled, but his gloved hands could not take hold of the ice. Before he could give the distress signal, faithful old Ootah grabbed him by the nape of the neck, the same as he would have grabbed a dog, pulled him out with one hand, and hurried the team across with the other. Ootah had saved his life, but Henson did not tell him so, for such things were taken as part of the day's work, and the sledge, which held the commander's sextant and instruments, mattered more. When they halted on the 6th of April, 1909, Henson saw Peary unpack a small folded bundle and recognized his old silk flag and knew this was to be a camp of importance. "This, my boy," Peary said, "is to be Camp Morris K. Jessup, the last and most northerly camp on Earth." He planted it on the igloo, and as a breeze caught it, the stars and stripes were nailed to the pole. Henson raised his voice to cheer, and the Eskimos gave 3 hearty cheers on the frosty air. The flag was battle-scarred, blank squares marking where Peary had cut pieces at each of his farthests. About noon on the 7th, lying flat on his stomach, Peary took the elevation of the sun. A diagonal strip of the flag was cut, sealed in a tin, and buried in the ice as a record for all time. As the banner snapped and crackled in the wind, Henson felt a savage joy and exultation. From the building of the pyramids and the journey to the cross, to the discovery of the New World and now the North Pole, he reflected, wherever the world's great work was done by a white man, he had been accompanied by a colored man, and he felt all that it was possible to feel, that it was he, a lowly member of his race, who had been chosen by fate to represent it. Peary's foreword marveled that Caucasian, Ethiopian, and Mongolian stood side by side at the apex of the earth. The 4 Eskimos had earned their place: Ootah, the best all-around man of the tribe, his brother Igingwa, who drove the Jessup sledge, and Siglu and Ukiah, who in 1906 had vowed to stay until Peary succeeded, and did.
The pole was won, but the work was not done. Ahead lay a desperate race back over the drifting ice, the loss of a beloved comrade, a bitter controversy, and at last, the word flashed home to a waiting world.
Reaction set in, and it was with a quavering voice that Peary gave the order to break camp. The strain told on him at once. After 2 marches back, he was nearly a dead weight. Yet without him, they could not have kept the breakneck pace that let them cover 3 upward marches in 1 return march. They crossed lead after lead, sometimes balancing like bareback circus riders on cake after cake of ice, but fortune held. When they hit the beach at Cape Columbia on the 23rd of April, it was nearly 17 days of haste, toil, and misery since they had left the pole, a horrid nightmare Henson could not fully describe. Looking at his comrades, he saw lean, gaunt faces, seamed and wrinkled, the faces of old men, and in his own little mirror at the ship, the pinched visage of an old man peered back. Safe aboard the Roosevelt, Henson's joy turned to grief, for Chief Wardwell's first words were, "Too bad about Marvin." Professor Ross Marvin, his kind friend and patient teacher, had drowned in the big lead on his return south. He had gone on ahead, leaving his boys to load up and follow. When they came to where he had vanished, they saw the ice newly formed about him, his head and feet beneath, only the fur of his back and shoulders showing. They could not save him, and knew nothing of restoring the drowned. He died alone, bravely and honorably. His grave is the northernmost on the earth. Yet his sacrifice was not in vain, for it was due to him that those who followed could keep the trail and reach the land. "He is home," Henson wrote. "His work is done. The sailor is home in the sea." Returning down the coast, at Ootah on the 17th of August, they met the storm of the age. Dr. Frederick Cook, once a surgeon on 2 of Peary's own expeditions, was claiming he had reached the North Pole the year before with 2 Eskimo boys. Those 2 boys, Itokeshu and Apella, were at Ootah, and Henson, McMillan, and the others questioned them closely. By every account, the boys had been out on the ocean ice only a very short distance, not more than 20 or 25 miles. To the men who had actually crossed that ice, the claim was so ludicrous they simply laughed at it. Henson had reason to be grateful to Cook for past kindness and felt his debt liquidated by his silence. Out of justice to Peary, he recorded what he knew and would say nothing more about the claims. The Roosevelt worked her way south through storm and drifting pack, landing Eskimo families and the meat and presents Peary owed them at their villages. At Cape York, they put ashore the last of the Inuit and turned for home. From the wireless station at Indian Harbor, Peary flashed his laconic message to the civilized world: stars and stripes nailed to the North Pole. Then came the rush of reporters and photographers, ringing cheers, and a holiday declared at Sydney, where thousands lined the shore waving flags. As they steamed south,
Henson sewed a broad white bar onto a great American flag with the words North Pole upon it. From Sydney, the Roosevelt came on to New York, taking her place in the Great Naval Parade on the 2nd of October, 1909. And now, Henson wrote, "My story is ended. It is a tale that is told."
Henson devoted the close of his book to the people he had lived among, the Smith Sound Inuit, who numbered just 218 souls. He described their sealskin tents and snow igloos, the soft stone lamps burning narwhal blubber, the shirts sewn from 150 little ox skins, their keen gift for imitation, and their few hard amusements of strength and song. He did not romanticize them. He set down their superstitions and their harshness plainly, but he honored them. These same unlearned and so-called uncivilized people, he insisted, had rendered valuable assistance in the discovery of the North Pole. Without their dogs, their furs, their hunting, and above all their loyalty, no flag would ever have flown at the top of the world. Henson knew every one of them by name, and he counted them his friends, as they counted him theirs.
Henson closed, still hungry for the trail, longing to hear Peary's voice urging him on with a "Well done, my boy." What he had proven outlasted the journey. For 23 years he had made himself indispensable, rising from servant to companion in one of the most dangerous tasks men ever attempted. Booker T. Washington saw the larger truth. Here was proof that courage, fidelity, and ability are honored and rewarded under a black skin as well as under a white, an everlasting example to young men of a race doing all the fundamental things for the first time. In October 1909, his admirers gave him a dinner and a gold watch and chain. Peary called him a distinct credit and feather in the cap of his race. The lure of the Arctic still tugged at his heart. "The old trail," he wrote, "the trail that is always new." Matthew Henson stood at the top of the world, yet returned to a country that long withheld his due. Recognition came slowly, a congressional medal, and at last, in 1988, reburial with honor at Arlington beside Peary. His own book, written in 1912, remains the witness, plain-spoken and proud, of a free-born black man who endured the fiercest cold on earth, built the sledges, broke the trail, saved and was saved, and helped plant his nation's flag at the pole. He asked for no monument but the truth of history. If his story stirs you, carry it forward. Share it, subscribe, and like, so that the courage of Matthew Henson and of the people of the ice who walked beside him is never again forgotten. The trail is calling.